In this video, our good friend Buddy Rhodes is going to allow us to make a mold of his head using body double silicone rubbers. One of the most important things is discussing with Buddy a safety plan to ensure that if there is a problem, he can communicate with me. I like to use a thumbs up and thumbs down motion so that if needed, we can stop the life casting. The first step is to apply the bald cap. We are using a vinyl bald cap so we do not inhibit the silicone rubber. I'm wetting Buddy's hair to slick it down to help with applying the bald cap. Next, I have Buddy slide his fingers under the bald cap and then I apply it over his head. We want to get the cap on as tight as possible with no lumps or bulges that could cause a deformity in the life casting. Once the cap is on, I'm tracing the hairline with a marker. This will help make sure we don't dissolve too much of the cap away later. Here, I'm trimming excess cap material away using small scissors. Using a cotton swab, a small amount of Dermatac is applied to the cap. Dermatac is a pressure-sensitive adhesive that will adhere the cap to Buddy. After the Dermatac has dried, the cap is folded back over. Light pressure is applied to adhere the bald cap. This process is repeated around the whole cap. Acetone is used to dissolve the edges of the cap away. We are looking for a nice blended edge between the cap and skin. This will save time later by not having to correct the line that would normally be left by the bald cap. We are working together to dissolve the edges of the cap so that Buddy doesn't have to sit longer than needed. Instead of a garbage bag or smock, we used a spare shirt that we cut the neck off of. Medical tape is then used to adhere the shirt to Buddy to prevent liquid silicone from getting underneath the shirt. It's now time to start making the mold. To start, we are going to mix up some Body Double Fast Set thickened with Thivex. We also added hyperfolic release additive. This material has a pot life of 90 seconds and a cure of 7 minutes at room temperature. This is a very fast material, so you want to ensure a thorough mix and uniform color while also working very quickly. We will apply this material behind the ears to start. This will ensure that the ears hold their shape. 2 people will be applying the silicone rubber to speed up the process. Next, I'm going to put cotton into Buddy's ears to prevent silicone from getting into his ear cavities. We will then let the Body Double Fast Set cure for 7 minutes at room temperature before we start applying silicone rubber to the whole head. While we wait, Body Double Release Cream is applied to the eyebrows and eyelashes. This will release the silicone rubber from Buddy's hair. Next step is to mix up a batch of Body Double Standard Set with hyperfolic release additive. This silicone rubber is skin safe and has a 5-minute pot life and cures in 20 minutes at room temperature. I'm going to start from the top of the head and work down applying the silicone rubber. Do you have an idea for a life casting that you would like to see a video for? Let us know in the comments below and we will see if we can't make it happen. We are applying it to the top of the head, side of the face, down the back, ears, and neck. We are saving his face for the last part of the application. This helps to keep Buddy comfortable as long as possible. Using cotton swabs, I can easily apply the silicone to all the nooks and crannies of the model's ear. When applying to the eye, you want to apply the material into the eye socket and work it out. This will help prevent any air pockets that can occur here. When working around Buddy's nostrils, it is very important that we do not block his airways. I use a cotton swab so I can be very precise where I apply the silicone. The most important thing is that Buddy is always able to breathe. I'm taking some Body Double Fast Set and applying it to the top of the head. I'm working it down the back of the head and sides. This rubber is used to build up the thickness of the mold. We are looking for about a 3/8-inch thickness in the silicone rubber. Body Double Fast Set has been thickened with Thivex and is applied to the back of the head and neck to create a cut seam. This area will be cut to remove Buddy from the mold. We want this to be thick to prevent the silicone from ripping. The thickness will also help the mold register with the support shell. It is important to periodically check with Buddy to ensure that he is okay throughout this whole process. His safety is the most important thing. We are now going to allow the body double silicone to cure for 20 minutes at room temperature. It's now time to make the support shell. We have pre-cut all the Gypsona plaster bandages that we will be using for this application. It is important to use medical-grade bandages as they are skin-safe. The bandages are 3-ply, and we dip them into room temperature water and then remove any excess water from the bandages. The bandages are then applied directly to the cured silicone rubber mold. As I apply the bandages, I run my hands over the surface so they are nice and smooth. We want the shell to conform to the outside of the silicone rubber mold. The support shell will be 2 halves. In the area where the shell halves are intersecting, I fold the bandages in half to help provide strength. Additional bandages are applied around the outside of the shell to add additional support. The bandages are allowed to cure for 10 minutes at room temperature. Once the first side of the shell is cured, petroleum jelly is applied to the first half of the shell. This will release the 2 halves of the Gypsona bandages. The process is repeated to make the second half of the support shell. The bandages for the second half of the shell will overlap the first half of the shell. This will help to register the 2 halves of the support shell together. Just like when I made the silicone mold, I need to be careful when working around Buddy's nostrils. He needs to be able to breathe during this whole process. I'm taking extreme care to ensure I don't block an airway. We are using a hair dryer on a low setting to help speed up the cure of the plaster bandages. Using a low setting and keeping the air moving around the bandages, we are able to speed up the cure so we are able to get Buddy out quicker. All of the bandages are allowed to cure for 10 minutes at room temperature. It's now time to finally get Buddy out of the silicone mold. The first thing to do is separate the support shell halves. Using a popsicle stick, I find a point where we can start to carefully release the surface tension between the 2 halves. Slowly, the front portion of the support shell is removed from the silicone mold. The back half is wiggled back and forth to break the suction until it can be removed from the mold. Safety scissors are used on the cut seam on the back of the rubber mold. We are going to cut just to the top of the head so that the rubber mold can be flexed and removed. As Buddy wiggles his face, I use my hands to slowly work around the perimeter of the mold and release his ears and face from the mold. The silicone mold easily removes from Buddy's face. I am extremely happy with this mold. The body double silicone has captured all of the details from Buddy's face. We are now ready to put this mold back together and create a casting of our good friend. Join us in the next installment of this project where we make a clay casting, then sculpt hair and eyes onto the clay. This will allow us to make another mold to make a realistic casting of Buddy. If you enjoyed this project, smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already and hit that bell to be notified when we drop our next video. Leave us a comment if you have an idea for a project. We'll see you in the next one.